Good evening, everybody. Welcome to this platform. We like to greet each other by saying greetings of peace, which is the meaning of Om Shanti. Today, we have amidst us Sister Jayanti. Most of you must be familiar, I'm sure, of Sister Jayanti. There is no need for me to give an introduction, but I will just say a little bit about Sister Jayanti. She joined the Brahma Kumaris at a very young age, and ever since she has been a very, very seeked out speaker because of the knowledge and wisdom that she has shared. Many of you also must have heard her voice, I'm sure, because of her beautiful commentaries that she gives, which are all available on YouTube. Of course, she has also imparted a lot of knowledge, which is also available on YouTube on different aspects of life and many other topics. But today, she will be sharing with us the wisdom on how do we build resilience to face challenges. Sister Jayanti is the European Director for all the centers in Europe, in London, and also in the Middle East. So without further ado, I shall now welcome Sister Jayanti to share with us. Welcome, Sister Jayanti. Just give us a few minutes. Sister Jayanti. A humble request, if I may ask all of you today to kindly mute your audio so that we can all enjoy the talk today. Thank you very much. Kindly make sure that your mics are on mute so that we can all enjoy the talk today. I would just like to invite Sister Jayanti.
Hello, Om Shanti. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now. Welcome, Sister Om Shanti.
And can you see the video?
Not yet.
Yes, now you can.
Yes.
Good. Good. So lovely to be with you and the whole group. I'm happy to join you. And the subject is a very relevant one for today's world because, yes, truly, we all need a huge amount of resilience. It's not an easy world to manage in. I was just up the mountain. I'm in Shantivan in India, Mount Abu, and I had to go up the mountain today. And so going up the mountain, we could see all the checks that were happening. And then coming down the mountain, again, the same thing. And of course, we noticed that there were very few monkeys on the road. Normally, there's lots of monkeys. And that's because the tourists aren't there to feed them. So they retreated into the jungle. And we didn't see any cows on the road. We didn't see people on the road also, but it was interesting. And so Mount Abu has become a little bit of a ghost town because it's a tourist place and this is the peak summer season. And having been within our own campus for the last nearly 2 months now, I've been cocooned and a bit, I know what's going on outside, but actually seeing Mount Abu in a state of being a ghost town because the restaurants and hotels are shut, the tourist shops are shut, everything has big, big shutters down. And it made me aware even more strongly that although now the world is fighting the battle with COVID-19, what after that? It's not going to be an easy journey back to normality, if ever. I think some things change dramatically and don't go back. Um, Many people have been writing and talking about how in 2001, when they introduced security checks at airports, um, that has never finished. It continues till 2020. And we thought it was a security measure just for a short time. And now, today, I just heard the news of a group that went back to London yesterday, and they're saying that it wasn't an easy scene at Delhi airport. On the plane, again, it wasn't such an easy experience. And these are the repatriation flights, of course. So commercial flights aren't working, but the repatriation flights are. And it just makes me realize all these things that we don't know what is going to be the world in December 2020. And definitely we don't know what the world is going to be like in May 2021. How many things will have changed? So what do I need to do? I can't change the world story. The world story, whether it's of an epidemic or whether it's of stricter government regulations on all levels, I can't change those things. But what I can do is build up my own inner capacity. It's like with, you're testing the resilience of a wire and you're putting weights on the wire to see at what point does it not bounce back? And you know that that's the resilience factor, that any load above such and such grams or kgs, and the wire has been stretched beyond its capacity. And so what you have to do is either remove the weights or find a way to build up greater capacity in the wire, maybe strengthen it in some form or another. And so I've been dealing with life as it comes, and maybe I've managed well so far. But today, whatever are the situations I'm facing now, I don't know what's going to happen beyond. So, how well am I coping with lockdown? Am I able to maintain a positive attitude? Am I able to say, well, this is a time to do the things I didn't have time for before? And am I getting on with those varieties of things? And if I'm not, then why not? Am I groaning, moaning, moping, wondering why is it that things are the way they are? I can't change those things, but what I can do is increase my inner capacity. So resilience means to be able to bounce back. I want to share a little bit of information about resilience from an outside perspective. And this is more from an emotional perspective rather than a spiritual perspective, but it also applies on the spiritual level. And what it is if a child has an education or an upbringing in which there's been someone, a teacher, a sibling, a parent, a grandparent, who's always been available for them and has been able to listen to them with unconditional love and total acceptance, whatever the child has done, doesn't matter. Whatever the child is saying doesn't matter, but there's the sense of total acceptance. And if there's been that experience, then the child grows up with an inbuilt capacity in which they're very strong and resilient and able to deal with the demands of modern living. But how many children do you know, or have you been a child in which there was somebody who was always available for you in that way, just able to accept you as you are unconditionally? And maybe not many of us would be able to say that, yes, this was my experience in childhood. So we grew up, we became adults, but we didn't know that we were missing this resilient factor. And when I am resilient, not only do I bounce back from situations as if nothing has happened, like an elastic band, you expand it to do whatever work you need to do, and you take away that stress and it bounces back to its original size and form and shape. So, can I bounce back from situations, or am I left scarred, or am I left so stressed that I can't manage things any longer? If I am able to bounce back, wonderful. Then it means that yes, you did have somebody who was able to support you unconditionally. But if you're finding that you're getting very stressed, if you're finding that things seem bigger than you, then I think that you need to look at the world inside and turn to God. Why? Because God is the one who is my eternal parent. I've had many parents through many births. Every time I took a rebirth, I had a new set of parents and new set of relationships. So that kept happening. But in this last birth of ours, at the end of Kali Yuga, we didn't really find people who were totally accepting or giving us unconditional love. There were conditions always. If you do this, then I love you. And if you don't do this, then I don't love you. And even though it might not have been stated in those words in that language, certainly the implication was there that I'm not going to love you unless this, and this criteria are fulfilled. And it comes from both parents as well, from both parents, mother and father. And so now I want to see if I can experience that unconditional love from my supreme parent. And yes, in the awareness of the inner being, the soul, the awareness of the divine, I'm able to make that connection. I'm able to experience that. And so in that state, yes, I'm able to experience somebody who accepts me totally as I am. No limits, no conditions. Father says, you're my child. So long as You're soul conscious, you can feel that love reaching you. Soul consciousness means turning inside to my eternal identity. In the consciousness of the body, that's a false identity. And so that becomes the barrier between me and the divine. God isn't saying, I don't love you. God is still saying, I love you. But I don't have the possibility of feeling it because my own block of identity on a physical level is not allowing me to have that experience. So in order to get that experience, which is available for every human being, I need to turn back to my inner identity of the soul, connect with the Supreme, and in that connection, what will happen is that I'm able to experience God's pure love for me. And this applies to every human being. Every child on the planet has a right to God's love. And by child, I don't just mean little children, I mean all of us, the children of God, the family of God, the spiritual family. So once I experience God's unconditional love, my value for myself grows. I'm able to become much stronger. And I have that strength and support coming to me all the time, always available. And yes, in that state, then yes, I'm able to go through situations that I didn't know I had the possibility of before. Big things happen, but I have the confidence of God's love. There's another aspect to this, and that is the question of accepting myself. God accepts me as I am. God wants me to become pure, but that's for my benefit, nothing for His. But apart from God's love giving me the capacity of resilience, what about my own love for myself? Can I accept myself unconditionally? The negatives and the positives. Nobody knows me better than I know myself. With others, I can always put on a mask. But I know who I am, and I know what are the things I'm going through at any given moment. God knows me, and God still loves me. But until I get to the point where I know myself deeply and I accept myself unconditionally, the good and the not so good, I won't be able to develop that inner capacity. And once I have been able to develop inner capacity, then what that means is that I have power. I can tolerate, I can discern, I can decide, I can face, I can accommodate, I can adjust, I can cooperate. These are some of the practicalities of the powers that we gain through silence, through meditation. And of course, resilience means that, yes, I have this inner capacity, this inner power. And if I have that, then I'm able to fill myself completely and I'm able to just stay absolutely full and content and do what I need to at any given moment. But if we find it difficult to accept ourselves, and because we find it difficult to accept ourselves, we find it incredibly difficult to have unconditional love for another and accept another. And of course, the spiritual law is that whatever is going on inside happens outside too. And so if internally, inside, I don't accept myself, I'm going to have a lot of problem with other people too. So let me get to a consciousness where I don't have problems with myself or with others. And starting with myself. can I, apart from accepting myself, even actually love myself? And maybe I need to go a little bit deeper into my own inner being to be able to do that. When I go deeper and deeper inside and connect with the inner being, what I find there is the beautiful original qualities that are intrinsic within the soul: peace, love, purity, joy, and truth. Am I able to experience these within? And maybe I can't because I haven't made this journey. But let me go on this inner journey and go deeper and deeper inside. And when I go deep down within, I'm able to connect myself with the experience of these qualities. And once I've touched into that treasure store, I'm able to bring up that treasure again and again. And every time I go on this journey and bring that treasure up and I hold it and I experience it, it's actually filling a space within myself that had become empty. One of the things that people are complaining about is loneliness. And maybe they still have their nuclear family with them. Maybe they don't. Maybe some is just husband and wife together. And so you're seeing each other's faces all day, in and out, 24 hours. And there are no visitors. There are no other things going on to entertain and amuse you. And so how do you live with the same person all day, every day, for months and months and months? Why not? Love yourself, and then you can love them also. And loving myself isn't narcissistic. Loving myself means that I'm able to see the eternal being, the child of God. And in that awareness, I can feel the original qualities and know that this is my own original state of being. Let me connect with those qualities. And then what I can do is to use these qualities in my day-to-day behavior. And when I see myself doing that, sharing my inner experience of love and truth and joy in all the interactions that I have with others, no matter what the pressure may be, no matter what the circumstances may be, but my response is what is inside of me. There's a very simple way to explain this. Two people walk past each other in a corridor and they bump into each other. And the person holding a cup of coffee spills the coffee on themselves and the other person. And so what happens? It's not easy to deal with coffee stains or tea stains for that matter. And so what happened was whatever was inside the cup came out. If it had been water, it would have been water that came out. If it had been tea, it would have been tea that came out. But the point of the story that whatever was in the cup was what was going to come out. You couldn't expect anything else but what was in the cup to come out. And so somebody gets into friction with me, rubs up against me. What is it that I'm going to give out? I'm going to give out whatever it is I filled myself with. And if what I've filled myself with is wasteful thinking, critical thinking, negative thinking, unhappy thinking, the bump is just an excuse, but I'll come up with whatever is the stuff that I'm carrying within. And if instead of the negative qualities and feelings, I bumped into somebody and I stopped and I apologized. I was rushing and not looking where I was going. And the person smiles and says, "It's okay, no problem," and gives you a big smile. They've just demonstrated to you the validity of the story. After COVID-19, when you can still bump into people, now you can't. But that growth of compassion, of patience, of love, of non-reactivity, that happened not at the time that you bumped into them. It happened through a practice that they had developed. And through that practice, they were able to create those feelings of positivity. And that's what happens. Let me fill myself with the goodness of who I am. And once I've been able to do that, then my old reactions and responses are the things that go underwater, not me. It's all those bad feelings and bad images that come back that I'm still holding in my space. Then that's what creates a disturbance. Can I come to the point where today, whatever it is that may be the trigger, an email that's not very pleasant or very demanding or assuming a lot and taking me for granted, can I sit peacefully and look at these messages and say, yes, I understand what you're going through, but maybe there can be a change. What I can do is to respond with peace and tranquility and love and truth. And if at all times this is what I'm giving out, guess what happens? It boomerangs. It comes back to me, multiplying. A little bit of patience, and it comes back to me, and my heart feels as if it's grown 1,000 miles. So let me experiment with going deep inside, connecting with the inner being and the qualities of the inner being, and learn to love myself for who I am, not what I've achieved. Just simply this first: who am I? And I think we can all start working on this principle and do that. If I can do this, then my family becomes a model and example for many others. And they also then want to do the same. Resilience means to have a big open heart, to be available for people when they need me, but also to be able to know at what point can I condense and compress something so that it's not taking all my time and energy and strength. You know, we sometimes allow things to take over our whole life. And if I'm doing it in the sense of being surrendered to God, well, that's great, because God is able to accommodate all of us in his heart. All, but I mean all, a million, plus, 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 of course. But 1,000,000 people who are Raj yogis, they will feel themselves surrounded by God's love, accepting God's love, and they'll feel the power in them grow. So I want to talk about one other quality that's connected for me with resilience, and that is patience. Patience is sometimes not even put on the list of virtues. People really don't value patience in today's world because it's a world of high speed. COVID-19 has taught us to slow down a little bit, but not yet enough. There's still a long way to go. And so patience goes very much with resilience. I'm able to withstand the shock of what's coming, not only because of the power that I have, because I've been developing that power, but also simply because of my patience. I don't react instantly. I have patience, and as a result of having patience, I stay calm and cool. And in that coolness, it's very possible that there's enough to be for whatever has been a problem that far. And so patience removes problems. I've seen that happen. An emotive reaction, something's happened and I react, well, my energy level is going to drop because I'm talking in a negative way to them, reacting to them. But if I'm responding to them with patience, something, and then a longer term solution also maybe. But in all of this, what happens is that I'm able to gather my own inner strength, my own inner energy. And then I'm able to think clearly. I don't have to do things instantly, at least not everything. Sometimes it's better to wait and reflect and then reply. Just instantly knocking off replies is maybe not so useful in certain situations. And COVID-19 has taught us plenty of patience, where you would order something online and it would come to you like within a few days. Now there's a different understanding. I don't need all those things I used to order online. I didn't realize how addicted I had become to online shopping. So, lesson for me: pause, ask, does this have to be now? Or is there a possibility of my fitting in something else so that then I can have time, so that I can have time in between. And as a result of buying time for myself, then I'm able to see a bigger picture. Instant reaction and my vision is very, very narrow, but a bigger picture, and then I see more perspective. I see more possibilities, and my response is likely to be a more holistic response. And definitely, it's not going to be one of irritation or frustration, because I've been patient. And so there's no irritation there, there's no frustration there. I'm patient because I know that Rome wasn't built in a day, a tree doesn't grow overnight. Anything that is worthwhile takes a little bit of time. Anything that you're doing, you invest your time and energy in it, and you'll see the results are very different than just quickly doing something. So resilience and patience go together. And within the spiritual journey, resilience means actually to be able to know that my own original state is the highest of all. Whatever I am today, whatever I'm doing today, is a faded image of my own inner potential. The potential that I have is of becoming a Deva Atma, a deity soul. And so, can I hold that vision of who I am and move towards it. And then, even if challenges come on the way, I'll be guided to my destination. I'll feel how the waters part and you're able to glide through it and do what you need to do. So, recognizing my own value, not just in a general way of all the different items that I listed at the beginning, but no, if I'm thinking about, say, my mother, and I ask myself the question, was there something more that she could have done? She did so much for me, but was there something a little bit more that she could have done? And I start thinking about her qualities, her abilities, her skills, how much she wanted to do. And when I begin to look at that, then I see this amazing picture emerge of someone who believed in themselves and believed in God. And as a result of the combination of the two, faith in God and love for God, then these two minds came together and said, well, we can support a meditation initiative. So before, when I was asked, can we do this? I'd say, well, wait, let me see what's possible. But here are souls who are touched, and so they put out their lending hand. And in that case, then that task gets done very successfully. So let me be able to find a friend who is also willing to take a risk and face public opinion for what is essentially a good product. It is a good one. And what I can do is to support it, and with my patience and my friendship with others, my faith in myself, my faith in what it is I do, as a result of all of these things coming together, yes, then yes, definitely, I'll be able to manage not only the scene that's in front of me together today, but I'll also be able to enhance my own stage of consciousness so that I do manifest my own highest potential. Most of us don't. And because of this, we don't have the faith in ourselves. We don't have that confidence. Neither do we have the possibility of addressing others and sharing with them. But my faith in myself and the fact that I shared, but having shared and told that this and this and this reason and it's not possible, then I'm also able to accept that with grace, with dignity, with love, instead of taking it personally. Sometimes in resilience, we have to face personal criticism. And at that moment, the heart really is crying, or even maybe I'm not managing at this point what I need to manage. So what happens in that situation? Can I, at that moment, in that situation, really just have the faith in myself that, yes, there is goodness and truth and beauty within me. Now this situation has come. Let me emerge that goodness and based on that goodness have interaction with the other. So spirituality means knowing your own highest position in the whole cycle. And in the context of spirituality, then resilience means to bounce back to my own highest state instead of waiting for another. When I look around and I say, well, so and so hasn't made it, so and so hasn't made it, I'm not so and so. I am who I am, an individual, and each one of us is the same. Many talents, many skills, many qualities. And so we can support each other, we can complement each other, but we can't ignore each other. I'm working with you day and night. And so I see you trying to manage things. And so can I give a little finger of support and cooperation and show another how to manage things also. So I've shared various things from different directions. I hope that it's been useful for all of you. Africa is very definitely the continent for deep wisdom. Asia is even older and is the continent for even deeper wisdom. And so wherever in the world it is you are, but Asia is definitely the continent of deep, profound wisdom. And wisdom comes not from theory. You can have a lot of knowledge from theory, but when you apply the theory into practice, you're applying the knowledge into practice. Through that practice, then what happens is you acquire wisdom. And so practice some of these ideas, and you find that your own wisdom grows, and you then have a greater capacity with which to be able to deal with all the trials and tribulations that come in front. And so come out of COVID-19 with resilience, with wisdom, and whatever the scenes of drama may come beyond that, you will be able to deal with those things. Okay, so let me open up to questions if there are any.
For your sharing. It has been indeed very fruitful, very enlightening. And in the meantime, everybody can post their questions on the chat. But I have a few questions that have been sent to me before the program even started. I think all of us here also present today probably would have the same question. So what's going to happen? When is this going to end? And will we be able to go back to our normal life?
Mm-hmm. I don't have a crystal ball, and science keeps telling us that yes, things have peaked and are now on the downward side, but also I know that it's different for different countries. So when it's going to end, some say it'll never end, that it'll be part of the family of viruses that are around us in the world, and we just develop an immunity to them, or we just develop our own immune system so powerfully, so strongly that we're not impacted by them. Because, you know, viruses have been around since human beings have been around, so it's not a new thing. But how come we never heard this term virus, virus, virus before? Because we were quite happy living in harmony with the viruses and also with the world around us. But from the time that we started polluting the water, the air, the food, and everything that we take into our system, that pollution has weakened us. And even things like electromagnetic radiation. How many devices are there around that are sending out radiation and are being impacted by those? So all of these things have reduced our immunity considerably. And this is why today we get affected by viruses and we didn't before. And so what I need to do now, I need to build up my immune system. And my immunity is built up not just with nourishment and rest and exercise, but also with hope. One of the things that causes immunity to drop is lack of hope. Another is fear. And so these things I can take care of. I can create an awareness in which I'm not afraid. I can create awareness in which I have hope for the future. And so I don't know when the virus will end, and I don't think any scientist or medical person would be able to tell you. It's guesswork. I don't know when lockdown is going to end. So questions that we don't have answers for. But the other thing, what next? Well, what next is economic chaos. I was thinking of this when we were driving past those shutters down at hotels in Abu. And like Mount Abu, there's a road in which the only thing that's there are hotels. There's no space for anything else. It's just hotels. And now they're shuttered down. So that to me is saying there's going to be an economic problem. And not just in one place on the planet, but everywhere. A powerful country like America, they have millions now unemployed. And so what's going to come as a result of all of that? There's going to be disruption in the economy in a big, big way. And so I need God's power. I need God's love so that I know that all that I myself and whatever is out there, yes, my family is precious, but if I haven't understood myself and given power to myself, I won't be able to help them at their time of need. And so I need to develop inner power through my connection with God.
Thank you, sister. There is this, I must not say question, but this is the comment that generally I have been hearing even today when I was talking to somebody. They say, look, what has God given us? How should we correct this, sister?
Let me share with you a story. And I heard this story a few weeks ago. A real story. A person in Italy, 93 years old, and they recovered from COVID, and they were about to go home. They were just waiting to settle the bills with the hospital. And there was a bill for 500 euros that the man didn't understand. And he said, what is this for? And they said, the ventilator. And the man started to cry. And the young doctor said, okay, look, don't worry. Let me see what we can do about this. And the man said, it's not because I'm poor and I can't pay this. I can pay this. So I'm not crying for that reason. I'm crying because for 93 years of my life, God provided me with air that I could breathe. And here, I needed a ventilator just for a day, and I get a bill for 500 euros. You understand?
Yes.
What is it that God has given? God has given us everything. God gave me an intellect. God gave me the capacity to think, to feel, to know, to understand. God gave me treasures within the soul. And if I, in my ignorance, forgot about the soul, locked up my inner treasures and couldn't access them anymore, and said, well, it's only human beings who can support me. It's only science that can support me. And it's only shopping, or it's only my addiction to XYZ that can help me. Then God detaches and is calm and quiet and waits patiently till we change our awareness and understanding of what it is we need to do. So God gave us a beautiful planet, like a blue pearl floating in the cosmos. And what did we do to it? Well, look at what's happened. Just see what's happening. Look at the sprawl of the big cities. Look at the muck in the oceans. Look at the poison in the atmosphere. So was God responsible for all this? Don't think so. He gave us a perfect mind and heart, and we abused it. He gave us a wonderful home with such beauty, And we despoiled it, we desecrated it, we exploited it, we aggressed it. And this is the result. And so rather, I should say, I'm really, really sorry, God. I didn't know how blessed I was. And now that I understand, I know it's practically time to go home. But before I go home, let me experience gratitude.
Thank you, sister. There's another question that we often hear, that be mindful, or, being mindful. Maybe you can explain that. What is it, being mindful?
It means being present. So often, physically, I'm sitting here, but my mind is somewhere else. Maybe it's in a different part of the world. Maybe it's with yesterday and what happened yesterday. Maybe it's with tomorrow and what I hope will happen tomorrow. So, although physically I'm here, my mind isn't here. Have you ever experienced this? Probably
Yes.
you have. Yes, exactly. So I think what mindfulness is saying is, I am here. Let me be present here fully with attention. And in that present, then my presence is felt. Others can feel my vibrations. Others, I'm sitting there, and because my mind is elsewhere, they don't feel anything from me. They don't feel my support. But what I do is become present. And so my presence is a gift, is a present to everyone. And the atmosphere begins to change. And don't try to do it on your own. Team up with at least two others, so that then the three of you, when you're sitting within a certain number of people, that's what you're doing. You're sharing good vibrations into the mix. And people will be perceptive and will catch those vibrations. Maybe it won't happen instantly, but it will definitely happen. Yeah.
Another question, sister, is that how do we develop emotional independence?
From a spiritual perspective, a very simple answer: soul consciousness and God consciousness. Why? I, the soul, came alone. At some point, I don't know when, I'm going to have to return home alone. And that is my home up above, not down here. And so we get too attached and possessive to people, places, objects, position. And as a result of our attachment to all these different things, we're not able to feel emotionally stable and independent. We take support from other human beings or things. Sometimes it's not human beings. Sometimes I just need to get another car. I just need to get the latest model of the car. And if I get the latest, then I feel very secure. But for how long? Somebody comes along with a better, newer version, and mine is already old within a few days. So I'm never going to be content and satisfied and emotionally stable by acquiring things externally. My emotional stability depends on my spiritual stability. My spiritual stability depends on deeply being aware of the inner being that I am. I'm soul. Sure. But what sort of soul am I? And am I able to keep that consciousness of who I am? And as a child of God, as an instrument of God, as a student of God, as a disciple of God, now nothing is too big, nothing is too little. I'm able to manage the big things and the little things if I maintain this consciousness and this awareness of who I truly am. And that gives me a deep foundation of stability that will never go away. It will never leave me.
Okay. The next question is expectations we all have, but there are many a times the outcome doesn't match the expectation. How do we deal with that?
How often is it that your expectations have actually been met? Not so often, is it? Rarely. And so, what's going on? What's wrong? And I think it's because at the end of Kali Yuga, the irony, the dark night, our expectations are way, way too high for human beings to match up to. What I'm expecting from my husband. If my husband was like Lord Rama, then yes, he could match my expectations. But then the question arises, if I want a husband like Lord Rama, am I willing to be a Sita, to be so faithful, to be so obedient, to be such a renunciate, all of those things. So it's not just my expectations aren't being met, but the other person's expectations are not being met either, which tells me that all of us now have shortcomings. Not one of us is perfect, which is why we're still here within this drama, this scene, and everything that's going on. So I can't expect others to fulfill my expectations when I know I can't fulfill the expectations of others. And so let me learn to be content. Instead of having a very high bar that's difficult to manage for most people, can I say, I have all the treasures within, and I can be very calm, very peaceful, very stable, without help from outside. And if I learn to do this, then yes, definitely, God will give me a huge amount of love.
The next question is, during this time, what message would you give to senior citizens living alone? How do we keep them positive?
This is that time for Vanprasth, going beyond sound. This is the time when you can share your love with your grandchildren, not by baking cookies for them or by visiting them or giving them a hug, but by engaging with them in a video chat, by talking to them on a smartphone, on WhatsApp, whatever. Keep the connection. Don't isolate yourself. Yes, you are alone physically, but there's a whole network of friends, of relatives who would love to hear from you. And so just go through your list, make a list, and then just go through that list one by one, and give happiness to somebody for 5 minutes every day. And they'll say to you, but oh, this is so beautiful. I've been remembering you, but I didn't want to disturb you. And so this is why I didn't call you. But now you have time. You have time for yourself. You have time for God. And I hope you're giving priority to these two things first. And then time for others around you. Go to them. Say hello to them. Don't be shy. And they'll probably want to share something with you. And I don't just mean physical food, but I mean there can be a lot that they can give you in terms of their wisdom, their experience, their stories. Just imagine a person who is in their 70s today, how much have they seen? They've seen life at its peak in the 20th century when everything was available and it was a joy and everything was easy, plenty, abundance. Then they went through different phases, and today the world is very, very different. And so ask them to share their memories, and you'll find it probably worth recording to share with others. So be creative and just look and see what it is they're thinking about that they can share with you.
The next question is this pandemic what has been told about Kal Yuga will end and Satyug will start? So is this the point of time of turning?
I think we've still got a little way to go. I don't know how long, but I think this is the start of much upheaval, and the upheaval is going to intensify. It's going to get worse. So I need my own resilience and capacity from Baba stronger and stronger.
The next question is, I have a friend who is always...
One second. How long is the list of questions still?
We have a few, sister, here.
Okay, so let me give you brief
about 4 or 5 questions more to go.
Okay, so I'll give you brief answers now. Yeah?
Okay.
Go on. So
I have a friend who is always able to guide, motivate, and advise others when their morale is down, but she herself still gets affected sometimes by her past situations and then totally breaks down. How can she build her resilience? How come she has words for others but not for herself?
it's a trait that we all have. It's easy to give advice. It's not so easy to follow your own advice yourself. And it's an indication of what happens very, very often. We're giving, but we don't know how to replenish. And so share with your friend that she can't just be giving, but she needs to make time for recharging. Imagine you're mobile and you don't recharge it. How long will it function? It'll dry up. Same thing. We've been trying to give, but we don't have enough in here. And so first, make time for the self, fill the self, so that then you are able to help others.
The next one is, sometimes accepting unconditionally makes us careless and puts us down to vices. How do we maintain the self at that time?
I think it's important to do a regular discipline of being able to recharge and refill and regenerate what I need for myself. And that's then going to carry me through whatever other circumstances and the situations that come my way. And so I think that making a discipline of time for yourself, for silence, for meditation, for taking from God, but also time to have spiritual study. All of these things then mean that you are gradually becoming more and more powerful. And that power is something that will help you, but it will also help others around you.
The next one is, how do I deal with those who constantly bring me difficulty in my life?
You can't change them. Can you change them? Probably not. But you can change yourself. Instead of thinking that they're causing me difficulties, think about it as helping me grow. If they weren't in my life, there would be something else that would happen. But circumstances come to help me grow. And so don't see those people as being difficult people. Instead, when you see them, look straight into their eyes, look into the forehead, and just see that soul shining in the center. And that practice will help you deal with what seems to be difficult, but you'll be able to change your perspective. It's not so difficult after all. So they won't change, but I have to change my thinking and my behavior with them.
In one family, one soul is following this knowledge and the partner is not. How do we balance the situation?
With love and regard. My mother was a Raj Yogi from 1957, and she was only 25 years old when she started. And she only had 9 months of study in India with Sister Jayanti. And yet she came abroad with 2 little children, myself and my little brother. And my father, and she maintained her yogic disciplines through the whole of her life. And it took 23 years for my father to change and become a BK, and he did. And he was very, very happy that he became a BK. But just to say that when there's mutual love and respect, then you sit down and you talk together and you say, okay, I'm willing to compromise this. What about you? If you just compromise, then you don't know what is the reality. What if? And so give yourself space for reality. Yeah.
Thank you, sister. It's been amazing with all these answers and also the wisdom that you have shared with us. Before we end, I would like you to share with us a commentary guided meditation on how we
Sure.
can practice this every day, something that is very easy that we can do every day, like an affirmation to ourselves and also to the family around us.
Okay, sure.
So
Okay,
I would
so
like
thank you
to
everyone for listening and watching, and thanks to Jabeen for organizing this. Appreciate the opportunity to be with you all. So I'm sure you're sitting comfortably, but anyway, find a posture in which both feet are on the ground and your back is straight so that your mind stays clear and fresh. I go on an inner journey, coming to the awareness of the soul. And in this awareness, I, the soul, shine. And as I shine, I become more and more aware of who I truly am. And I connect with God, the Supreme, the being of light, the origin, the source of all spiritual teachings and spiritual progress. And as I focus on the divine, I decide I want to take God's power and I want to take God's love. I fill myself with this love and this power, and I send out these vibrations of God's light and love into this room. And this light and love radiates out into the world. And I see these vibrations transforming my home, my family, nature, and the entire universe. I come back to the awareness of the things here and now. And now I resolve to keep this light and this love with myself so that I use it at all times. Om Shanti. And thank you to the unseen, invisible support team that made all this happen. So thank you all very much.
thank
Om
you, Sister
Shanti.
Jayanti. Om Shanti.
Thank you. Take care. All good wishes.
Thank you.